a particular memory that we like to look back on that happened in one sport or another in that year of 1977. A chance to relive some of those memories now with Gerald Williams.
Welcome to Pick of the Sporting Year, Her Majesty the Queen's Jubilee Year. From thousands of hours broadcasting, we bring you a digest of some times we'll never forget, and some times we only wish we could forget. (1977), the year of a revolution in cricket, of an English girl with a new hairdo who smiled from the very top of the tennis world, of a cricketer who came in from the cold, of a horse who worked a miracle. 1977, the year England couldn't make it, but Scotland could. We'll be off to New Zealand, where the Lions got grubby in the mud, across the ocean to Muhammad Ali, still the greatest, back home again to see James Hunt win at Silverstone. First, a question for you. What was the outstanding individual performance in British sport this year? Was it Virginia Wade's?
Next point, Stovey serves, it's right, a forehand return by way down the line, Stovey can't get it! Virginia has won! Virginia has grasped the title she thought would never be hers. Virginia Wade has won the centenary title. Virginia will take tea with the Queen.
Was it Geoff Boycott?
Chapel turns, goes in again. Boycott, 96 not out. He bowls to him. That's a half volley, drives it down the ground, and there it is. He's done it. He lifts both hands in the air. Geoff Boycott has got his 100-100.
Or did a horse have the last laugh on them all?
Here comes the greatest horse of Aintree. Red Rum has 200 yards to run to make history. The excitement here is tremendous. Red Rum has done it for a fourth time. Red Rum, the coast of Aintree. The public around the coast. Aintree is going mad.
In the next 55 minutes, we'll try to guide you to an answer as we reflect on a year's sport here on Radio 2. 1977 was Wimbledon's centenary, and they produced anything from dishcloths to spode plates, so that we'd have something tangible to show the grandchildren one day when tennis is played on the moon. To store in our memory banks, they staged a parade of champions on the centre court, not with the costume and fanfare that showbiz would have produced, but with Athenaeum Club reticence, so that the history of the moment produced its own sturdily British note, rather than have some theatrical trick impose a spurious gloss. The champions stepped forward one by one to receive commemorative medals from the Duke and Duchess of Kent. Kitty Godfrey, Elizabeth Ryan, Fred Perry, Jean Barotra, and the gallery sang. As the Duke himself admitted afterwards, some of yesterday's champions were visibly moved.
Some of them certainly gave the impression of being very moved by the occasion. I mean, Barotra, the first man to come on, was clearly very emotional about it. Several of the older ones in particular gave one the impression that it was almost a homecoming to them. You know, it was, well, one felt that clearly Wimbledon meant a great deal to them. The memory of having won it was still very, very fresh.
There was a distinguished absentee from the parade, Mrs. Connor's beloved son, Jimbo. He was seen practicing with Ilinastasi, and to a man almost, the British nation, not to mention that incurable Anglophile Arthur Ashe, responded with outrage, all of which prompted Jimmy C to concede under some pressure.
No snubbed anybody. If anybody was snubbed, there was no intention in that respect, and if they feel that I did it on purpose, you know, it's unfortunate, very unfortunate, and it was just... you know, maybe an error on my part.
The Queen was coming for a change, it being the centenary. All we needed now, really, was for a British player to win one of the singles championships. Some hope. Virginia Wade turned up with a new short hairdo, and no one can say she didn't drop us a hint.
I think it's been a new me for the last couple of years, but it wasn't quite so obvious. I mean, I had to start really telling everybody that I was tough, and I feel that, you know, it's just a sin for the amount of talent that I have not to use it and to be, you know, to win a bit more. And I, the more that I've studied all these players, the more I realize that the guts is just such an important part of it. The last thing I ever want to be said of me is that I don't have any guts.
Came the semi-finals. She faced Chris Evert. If Virginia could possibly scale this peak, then with all due deference to the agreeable Betty Stover, the title was hers. Here was the moment Question is, was our volatile young lady the woman for it? Max Robertson lived it vividly with her.
Will she, at this last millisecond, falter? Will she double fault? She's bouncing the ball about 4 times. Now she's shaping to serve towards us at match point against the champion. She serves down centre, good one, forehand return. Wade, a backhand chip down the centre. Everett two-handed down to the forehand side. Wade gets it back cross-court. Everett forehand down, deep to the backhand corner, just in, it's returned. Everett a forehand cross-court into the forehand corner. It's on the sideline. Laurie's hand nearly came out, but Everett Wade's won with a forehand anyway, cross-court. Virginia Wade has won the most magnificent, scintillating victory I think that any British girl has won.
Clearly, destiny now was in total control. For all the old Virginia's frenzied efforts to break out in the final, and for all Betty Stover's beefy hitting. And no record book will ever tell the passion and release of those imperishable moments.
Match point, second serve, Stovey serves, it's right, a forehand return by way down the line, Stovey can't get it! Virginia has won! Virginia has grasped the title she thought would never be hers. Virginia Wade has won the centenary title. With the Queen watching her, Virginia will take tea with the Queen.
But before that, Virginia was to ride an exhilarating wave of joy when she received the trophy from Her Majesty.
Virginia Wade. She curtsies and shakes the Queen's hand and has a few words with Her Majesty. And the centre court applaud and applaud and applaud. Virginia has done it. It's taken her 16 years. And now she holds the silver salver, still talking to Her Majesty. A magnificent representative for Britain, Virginia Wade, as a player, as a captain of our Whiteman Cup team. Virginia will turn, and she'll hold the salver up now, and the moment belongs to Virginia Wade.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was just like fairyland. I mean, I've never heard such an incredible noise and such a fantastic atmosphere, and then you suddenly realize at the bottom that it's all centered around you, and it's too good to be true.
And now, no more mountains to climb. You're going to feel a bit flat, probably.
Probably. But I don't think so, because I knew exactly why I wanted to win, and for my own reasons, apart from anyone else, and so I'm glad I did it.
Everybody's thrilled for you.
When you should see the dressing room full of flowers, it looks like a flower shop. It's so fantastic. The whole thing is just wonderful.
You're the Wimbledon champion.
Oh, yeah, isn't that nice?
Lest we forget, there were other players at Wimbledon this year. After all, Sue Barker reached the semi-finals to give us 2 out of the last 4. And there was that pinafore and prodigious American knight, Tracy Austin, all of 14 and teeth in braces. We were cross-eyed trying to distinguish the Gullickson twins, Tim, the right-hander, or was it Tom? And the American school kid, John McEnroe, was through to the semi-finals, boys' own paper stuff, that, even before we were all quite sure exactly how to pronounce his name. There was John Lloyd flashing past Roscoe Tanner and then dozing off till he shot right through to the final at Wembley just recently. And there was a giant of a semi-final between Vitas Gerolaitis and Bjorn Borg. Nastasi, of course, was up to his old tricks.
Nastasi's going.
He's going.
He's going off the court. And Nastasi has crawled underneath the stop canvas at the back of the court. He's got down on his hands and knees, and he's hiding behind the canvas there, and the crowd have suddenly seen the funny side of this, and Nastasi is flat out behind the canvas, hidden from view, and the umpire is not amused.
Another time against Borg on the centre court, Nasty's eccentricities caused there to be a brief phone conversation between the umpire and the referee in his office. Terry Wogan rather misinterpreted it.
I thought when the funniest part of the whole thing was when the referee picked up the phone. I thought what he was saying was, put on the rashes and egg, dear. This will be over very soon.
From her seat in the royal box, Miss Barbara Cartland found some players' behaviour rather offensive.
I wish they'd watch their manners a little more. I think we had much better manners in the 20s and 30s.
Really?
People behaved extremely well, extremely sportingly. If they lost, and they didn't all have hysterics about it. I think it's the same in everything, same in politics. People behave very badly if they don't win. And we've always had a tremendously sporting attitude and a sporting code in England, which I'm afraid is being lost in everything, in every walk of life. And I think it's a pity it does it in tennis.
Anyway, the men in the end boiled down, or up really, to an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation between 2 of the 3 best players in the world this year. The whole world watched Connors against Borg, and it was the ultimate in competitiveness through 5 roller coaster sets till it reached this final straight.
3 match and title points.
Quiet,
To beat
please.
Connors, his great rival, to retain his title, serves the left-hand court. That's right, a forehand return down the centre. Ball driven back, plays a forehand. Connors comes up, plays a forehand, a half volley. It comes back and he's beaten. With a slam down the line. Once again, ball turns to Bergelin, his mentor, in the box up there. Ladies and gentlemen, I've done it. I've beaten Connors. I've kept my title. 3 hours, 14 minutes. The greatest final since the war. Perhaps the greatest final ever.
The British tournament scene showed continuing signs of revival in 1977, but our national teams, they just weren't good enough. The Davis Cup men died in the dust and rowdyism in Nastasi's own Bucharest. In the Whiteman Cup, our girls simply couldn't match the Americans at their supreme best in Oakland. In the Federation Cup, the Australians denied them a place in the final on our own grass at Eastbourne. In tennis, Virginia couldn't do it all. The England cricketers had had such a bellyful of steel drums and calypsos in the summer of '76 that when they not merely survived but thrived on all that chicken biryani in India and took the series there by winning the third test in Madras, not even the margin note that it was only the second time in history that England had won a series there convinced us that this really was a new England.
Willis starting a new over, running away from us. In now he bows Kamano. He's out. He scored by Brele at first slip. It was a short ball. He played back. He flinched at it as it lifted. Up to the wicket now. He bows Chandrasekhar and he's bowled in, and there it is. His off stump is out. Chandrasekhar bowled by Lever for 6. And England have won the third test match, and they have also won the series with it. And Greg is being cheered off the ground.
Well, after that, it was off in a plane to Melbourne to the centenary test and a look at some other golden oldies. It was to take on the Aussies, their grog and their flies, and all that earthy badinage they call rubbishing. And glory be, Tony Gregg's Poms did us proud again. They were still in with such a chance on the last day, thanks particularly to Derek Randall's 174, that we sat up all night listening to Test Match Special.
Lily has done a great deal of work today. He is in his 35th over now, which is a fine performance by a man who has got a bad back. A stress fracture revealed in the x-rays that were taken. Runs away from the pavilion end now, bowls to Knox in the field. He's given out, and that's it. Australia have won by 45 runs. An exact repeat of the first ever test match 100 years ago this month.
Still, over 400 runs in that fourth innings spelled out the word resurgence still more clearly, though even as the centenary test was being played, not that we knew it at the time, Big Bad Packer was creaming the top off the bottle. When that story broke one innocent May morning, they handed Gregg his cards as England's captain even before most of us really understood what the principles were at stake. His job went to Mike Brearley, under whose crash helmet is a cranium full of philosophy that was to maintain his and England's equilibrium through the turbulence ahead. When England coasted home in the Prudential one-day internationals, everyone said the Australians couldn't possibly be as bad as they looked. Well, the first test was drawn, the second convincingly won by England. At which point, re-enter England's bionic batsman, Geoff Boycott. For 3 years he hadn't wanted to play for his country. Now, in time for the third test at Trent Bridge, he was ready to respond to the nation's call.
I think perhaps there'll be a few people like to see me fail, but I think that the majority of people will hope I'll do well, because I think, really, I think anybody who plays for his country, the public ought to hope that he'll do well, so that England will do well. But for those few that hope I don't do so well, they must have a what sort of mind, that's all.
He got his 100, of course, so he programmed himself next to record his 100th 100 in the test at Headingley. Where else? In the match that would give this high-spirited England side the Ashes. What else? Providence wouldn't have scripted for Boycott the self-effacement of the game's other 100th 100 this year, John Edrich reaching his when almost nobody was looking in an anonymous county championship match at the Oval. Christopher Martin Jenkins was at the microphone when Boycott wrote his bit of history with the world looking on in reverence.
Chapel turns, goes in again. Boycott, 96 not out. He bowls to him. It's a half volley, drives it down the ground, and there it is. He's done it. He lifts both hands in the air. Geoff Boycott has got his 100th 100.
England won by an innings. The Ashes were ours again after 2.5 years.
And here's Hendrick again. Running into bowl to Marsh. 63 not out. Marsh swings it high on the offside. Randall's underneath it. This could be the Ashes for England. He's caught it. They've won. The Ashes for England. Randall turns a cartwheel. The stumps are seized by the players, the crowd come onto the field, and England have regained the Ashes.
Throughout the series, though, the noises off were deafening. The cricket establishment were fighting for its right to administer the game internationally against an Australian entrepreneur, one Mr. Kerry Packer. He had wanted the television rights of all tests in his country, and he didn't get them. And so he decided to sign up his own players and stage his own series on his own TV channel, just like that. By the time it seeped through to them through a haze of cigar smoke in the long room, and they'd got their sabres rattling to scare off the impudent colonial bounder, Packer had signed contracts in his pocket with a squad of the world's best players. A peace conference at Lord's ended in deadlock, and the air was heavy with threats of sanctions and reprisals. Packer strode out, breathing fire.
I will do everything within my power to protect those players right down the line. I will move out of a situation where I'm still trying to fit in within limits with what's going on with world cricket at the moment, and I will move into an aggressive stance. They can say what they like about me. If they start to victimise the players who've placed their trust in me, at that point in time, it's an all-out scrap.
The establishment's response was unequivocal. Effectively, the nations banned any Packer rebel from Test cricket and recommended that the penalty should apply in domestic competitions around the world as well. Back came Packer's company and three of his players, Tony Greig, Mike Proctor and John Snow, with a writ claiming restraint of trade. In November, the High Court in London, Mr. Justice Slade ruled against the establishment. The ban was void, and it cost the administration over £200,000 to find it out. Tony Lewis took our perceptive new Saturday morning programme, Sport on 4, across the world to Melbourne to see Packer-style cricket at first hand, and he wasn't a convert.
In this massive grey stadium, made for nearly 80,000 spectators, the world's finest cricketers have turned on their most brilliant skills. They truly did. And no one cared. Vivian Richards, for example, played beautifully. But I'd have had more thrill if I'd seen him motionless in Madame Tussauds, in the right West Indian sweater. It was designed for television, which includes 12 minutes of advertisements to the hour. They're all acting, jumping about, overreacting to everything. Super cricketers will clearly have to do a year at RADA before joining Packer in future. You can see the programme note. Tony Greig is a national theatre player. Somehow, taking the most brilliant player out of the context in which he became brilliant and well-known has not worked in a cricket exercise. At least not yet. 2 weeks of super cricket have numbed me. It's been like 2 months. I crave for good, honest team sport. You know, I even long to see England beat Wales at Twickenham. There you are, I said it. Quite honestly, I'm absolutely packered.
The BBC Radio Sports Unit went on shrinking the universe. Lewis the Lyrical there in Melbourne, a few weeks later Blofeld the Bland out in Lahore. And where we were, things certainly happened. In Lahore, the first test between Pakistan and England, Henry Blofeld watched a riot.
Sticks are being thrown, the police, the players are running for the pavilion, and the crowd are coming on in quite big numbers. We really have got a riot now. We've got the spectators coming onto the ground, sticks being thrown, the police are being pelted, the players have left the ground and are coming into the pavilion. They're quite safe. The umpires behind them, they are safe.
Anyway, the game itself lives on, with its several sponsored faces looking healthy enough. One positive outcome of the Packer revolution was that Cornhill's investment in test matches put England's cricketers in the £1,000 a match bracket. The Schweppes County Championship was decided on the last day, or rather it wasn't decided, a tie between Middlesex and Kent. Middlesex also won the Gillette Cup. Leicestershire won the John Player League for the second time. Not a bad year, was it, for Mike Brearley, the Middlesex and England captain, what with one thing and another. At least he could feel rather more wanted than Rachel Flint, England's ladies captain. Rachel, she got the big hey-ho. Human nature being what it is, we always seem to have someone to hiss and boo, or else we'd have to attend to our own defects. Kerry Packer was cricket's villain. In football, there was Don Revie. It didn't matter that we'd lionised him at Leeds and hailed him as a new messiah when he came south to Lancaster Gate. How dare England not win all the time? Against Finland and Luxembourg in World Cup qualifying games, Revie's teams performed like grey automatons. In fact, long before the ultimate indignity of losing to the Welsh and the Scots at Wembley, Fleet Street was dusting the cobwebs off those time-honoured headlines demanding the sacking of guilty men and the rolling of heads. Revie stood stoutly on the bridge while the flames of derision licked at his ankles.
Well, we're disappointed naturally, but I'm quite pleased with the team's performance. I asked them to go out and compete, and this they did. They challenged every tackle, and they run until they couldn't run anymore. And you can't ask any more from the team.
And you personally are battling on, are you?
I never give up till I can't go any farther.
Hope tried a brave smile on England's South American tour, but even as it did so, Revie, it later transpired, was jetting to a secret European rendezvous camouflaged in false names, cloth cap, and dark glasses to find himself alternative employment, not to mention a cool £340,000, running the game in the hot United Arab Emirates. James Bond and Lawrence of Arabia had nothing on it. The FA got the news in their morning mail and seemed peeved. There was even talk of litigation. They also seemed surprised because it took them so long to find someone upright and available and dedicated to unchaining the flair, inventiveness and pride that had been missing from England's performances. When the dust of the desert and the dust of recrimination here as well had settled, Sport on 2 finally tracked down Revie in Dubai, and Jim Rosenthal put the question all Britain wanted to know. Any regrets?
I don't think so. I think that sometimes in life you get the chance to secure your future and your wife and your kids and people who are close to you. And it was a chance for once in my life. A lot of people will say, well, I shouldn't have done it, I shouldn't have deserted the country, but I felt it was the right decision. And once I make a decision, whether it's right or wrong, I usually stick by it.
The FA hired Ron Greenwood originally only on spec, as it were. By the time the World Cup match against Italy at Wembley arrived, England needed almost a cricket score to go to Argentina for the finals next year, and to salvage a tattered reputation.
Looking again in possession, just inside the Italian half. Brooking and Wilkins combining on that far side. Brooking on the ball now, halfway inside the Italy half. Good ball in the middle, Keegan! Oh, super goal by Kevin Keegan! What a start for England! 10 minutes gone, and the man who made Ron Greenwood change his mind shows why.
Coppell goes forward fast for England. Outside he lays it to Keegan. And Keegan holds. 1, 2, 3, 4 blue jerseys in front of him. Lays it forward, a chance here for Brooking. Brooking scored, 2-0. Great running by Kevin Keegan, and the West Ham man was there. And he was not found wanting. Brooking slid the ball home in the Mammerborn. And Brookings made it 2-0 for England with 9 minutes to go. I wonder how important that can be. And it's now England 2, Italy 0.
After that, the feeling grew that Greenwood would be confirmed by the FA as the man to open the windows at Lancaster Gate and let in some fresh air. And so it was. After that match as well, it didn't seem quite so shameful to bear an ordinary English surname like Smith. If you were a McTavish or a McAnything, you were soon round at Cook's investigating cheap excursion rates to Argentina, for the graffiti was beginning to proclaim Jocks rule, okay? And so far as the UK was concerned, it was becoming increasingly obvious that they did. Wales had jauntily beaten the Czechs at Wrexham, but in all the Principality, the boys Bach couldn't find a ground good enough to stage their crucial World Cup qualifying tie against Scotland, and the concession to stage it on no man's land at Anfield seemed somehow symbolic. Ali MacLeod, Scotland's manager, approached the trial with realism.
I think there's only Mike Smith and the 11 that's playing against us think that they're not going to win. I don't think there's any complacency. I mean, in our squad we have a number of players who know this is their last chance to win the World Cup and to put their talents and show it to the world as in a whole, and they're not going to slip up. I mean, I can sit here and say that Scotland's great and Scotland's magnificent, but at the end of the day, the 11 in the field will prove that what I've said is right. Should we win this one, I think that Scotland will go on to win a medal of some sort in the World Cup.
And a lovely ball by Macari, slid out to Buchan, the Scottish substitute, in the outside right position. Wales stretched, here's the ball in the middle, Dalglish! Oh, a brilliant goal by Kenny Dalglish! What a moment for Dalglish, the hero of Scotland, on the ground where he's now worshipped as a Liverpool player. And that clinches it for Scotland. They're in the World Cup finals now. And what more appropriate than Kenny Dalglish, the hero of Anfield, should score on his home ground to make Scotland certainties now for the World Cup finals in Argentina in 1978.
Yes, Scotland won 2-0, and now they, and not poor England, are off for hay to gory bed or victory, as the Bard said, in Argentina. The domestic scene resolved into a manful challenge by Liverpool to land a treble, the FA Cup, the League Championship, and the European Cup. The league title they duly retained, and on Cup final day, Liverpool certainly started as favourites all right. But then, Tommy Docherty's Manchester opportunists got at them.
10 minutes gone in the second half. United press forward again. The ball with Greenough just inside the box. There's Macari. And it's in the net. Macari has given United the lead again. Lou Macari pouncing on a defensive mistake inside that Liverpool penalty area. And Clement beaten for the second time in the space of a few minutes.
So for Liverpool, it was chin up and straight off to Rome for the European Cup final against Borussia Moenchengladbach. Oh, night of nights.
Keegan was brought down, and now about 100,000 photographers are running the whole length of the Olympic Stadium to stand behind the Moenchengladbach net. Because if Phil Neal scores this, and it's got to be Phil Neal, the penalty king of Liverpool, Phil Neal, I would think, could win the European Cup for Liverpool. Phil Neal spots the ball up more carefully than he's ever done before. He scored 3 European Cup goals, 1 with a penalty. Let's wait. He comes up. 3-1. And Phil Neal has almost certainly won the European Cup for Liverpool. Rome belongs to the Mersey. Phil Neal has surely done it for them now. Liverpool 3, Borussia Moenchengladbach 1.
The only conclusion we've reached is this. When the plumbing burst and the baby came out in spots, when the taxman cometh and the car wouldn't start, through all these things sent to try us, sport sustained us with a daily diversion of the momentous, the banal, of hopes in tatters and hopes reborn.
Red Rum has 200 yards to run to make history. The excitement here is tremendous. Red Rum has done it for a third time.
Lovely ball by Macari, slid out to Buckham, the Scottish substitute, in the outside right position. Wales stretched here, the ball in the middle. Dalglish! Oh, a brilliant goal by Kenny Dalglish! And that clinches it for Scotland. They're in the World Cup finals now.
Next point. Second serve. Stovey serves. It's right. A forehand return by way down the line. Stovey can't get it. Virginia has won. Virginia has grasped the title she thought would never be hers.
James Hunt takes the checkered flag to win the 30th British Grand Prix. He's got both his hands off the wheel.
Nicklaus now crouches over the putt, looks at the hole, looks at the putt, strokes it, follows through slightly. It's going up to it. Will it go in? It's in! What a magnificent putt! Absolutely magnificent putt.
Several turns. Goes in again. Boycott, 96 not out. He bowls to him. It's a half volley, drives it down the ground, and there it is. He's done it. He lifts both hands in the air. Geoff Boycott has got 100-100.
So thank goodness for just the game. You can have 2 left feet and the coordination of a demented octopus. You don't have to be any sort of champion at all to enjoy the game. A ball to strike, a race to run, a team to cheer. What more can a sportsman ask? For us in the BBC Radio Sports Unit, it's on now to 1978, to the World Cup finals and to the Commonwealth Games, but that's all in the future.